grass is greener on the other side, but you got to go through some mud to get to it.
Hello, SupersetYourLife.com podcast. Welcome to episode 13. Colt and I were joined by the married WNBF pro bodybuilders, Jermaine, Castaneda, and Edna Ferrer. Edna and Jermaine show how their accomplishments in competitive sports have empowered their marriage, their relationships, businesses, and much more. Because as Arnold says, everything is reps, reps, reps. For them, work and play is a superset. We discuss building muscle, what it's like coaching your spouse, the role strength has in sculpting your physique, misconceptions about training methods for women, progress tracking methods, and for you meatheads, muscle development techniques for the lats and quads. Jermaine and Edna's expertise has been a valuable asset in Colt's bodybuilding career. Edna was a judge at the Hollywood Supernatural Bodybuilding Competition in Hollywood, California, June of 2019, where Colt and his brother Bo competed together in one of the largest drug testing competitions in the West Coast. Edna was kind enough after the show to spend a significant amount of time offering new training considerations and posing tips. This guidance helped him to place better at his next competitions, nearly winning a pro title himself. Since then, they have stayed in communication, and she and Jermaine have continued to inspire and respond to the endless amount of questions my curious husband always has. Jermaine and Edna are also San Diego-based bodybuilding show promoters, coaches, and award-winning strongman competitors. Information on their upcoming shows can be found on teamjcreation.com. Their Instagram handles are also in the show notes below. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the strong and super Jermaine and Edna.
When I started seeing my body change, I was like, wow, that looks pretty cool. I like that. And I started chasing that and doing it more and more, and started getting into it. Next thing you know, I became a trainer, and I was challenged. It was like a transformation challenge, but to do a show, right? So that's how I got introduced into bodybuilding, and my first one was NPC Border States, and back in 2013, and I took like 10th place in men's physique, because I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not down for those the man thongs yet. I wasn't down for that yet, even though I love bodybuilding. I was like, why can't we wear the kind of shorts they were back in the day? They're like, oh, you don't do that no more.
Like classic physique.
Yeah, now they have this physique where they do it, but I'm already comfortable with my man thong, so I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm sure Colt could like walk on stage naked and he'd be totally confident.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of guys start. It took me a little while to get confident in the actual full-on bodybuilding attire, which involves pretty much just the bare minimum.
The man.
Yeah, we could call it.
It looked awkward in my shorts too, because I've always been body. Yeah, the banana hammock. But I've always been like bottom heavy, so like I've always been like shaped weird. So men's physique, I looked awkward. I was like, maybe you should just try bodybuilding since you're already there.
Yeah,
I didn't think
I had the same problem. Yeah, Edna was one of the many judges that expressed that to me. Judges
wrong category.
Like, why are you doing men's physique? And I'm like,
you just did men's physique for fun though. That was never something.
I haven't not taken it seriously, and I place better when I don't take it seriously too. Otherwise, I'm like flexing and trying, and that's like not what you're supposed to do for
Yeah.
Like especially for your physique, if you maybe did like a 70% like flex on stage, then it would look more men's physique. But if you're like super flexing and you're trying to fit in that kind of category, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, that's what we found. So you coach Edna then?
Yeah.
Wow.
For 6 years now. We're coming on 6 years now.
Wow, that's a long time. And you guys have been married for that long too?
No, we got married back in 2018, January.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Very cool.
Okay.
But we've been dating pretty much. We started off, right, coaching first. No, we started dating and then we were like, okay, maybe I should do a show. Prior to him, I never did anything competitively. Well, other than like in high school, a little bit in college, but other than that, it was just, going to work, working out, and then.
So your strength and your strongman competitions, do you do strongman competitions or do you do powerlifting? Okay, so started taking fairly recently then.
No, so when we first started, we got into bodybuilding. I trained maybe like 4 months before my first show, and then we decided to take a off season right after my first year of competing. We took a year off. We did powerlifting, and that's when I was like, oh, you know, actually being strong is a little bit better than being aesthetic.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're brand new, you get your strength like this. So it was different compared to just all the reps.
Yeah.
And then we went back to bodybuilding. Then I think maybe like 3 years ago, that's when we tried strongman, and it's pretty fun. I like it way better than powerlifting. So that's my off season. So I am able to stay within a weight class, you know.
A lot of it is strategic. I plan a lot of things based on like how she's feeling, what she wants to do, and we roll with it. Like, let's see, after her first 5 shows where she was competing in the NPC, we went to nationals, and like, it wasn't as what we thought it would be. So, you know, we were like, all right, let's go back to the drawing board. You know, are you still willing to still compete in bodybuilding or figure at that? And she was kind of like, yeah. And just off that, like, I was like, all right, well, let's try something different. Let's take off season. Let's have a break. Let's have some mental clarity and still feed your competitive drive while staying being productive indirectly for bodybuilding. And we tried our hand at some powerlifting.
She didn't like it.
She didn't like it, but she did very well. Was after I think her first or second meet, she was already internationally ranked. I forget how it is. We're definitely not part of that powerlifting world. We just did it for fun. But she had an elite total. And that shocked us. We were just going in having fun lifting heavy things. And then we did about 3 or 5 of it. 3 to 5.
Yeah, I think we did 3. But it's so repetitive. It's squat, bench, deadlift. And you know, as a bodybuilder, you already squat, bench, deadlift. So I'm like, can you do something different?
Yeah,
right.
Change it a little bit.
When I had my mentors like teaching me about bodybuilding from 2010, 2012, 13, and on, they were like, you gotta squat, you gotta deadlift, you gotta bench. Nowadays, you don't have to. That's what's told and said, and that's okay unless, like, you know, you have someone who can teach you the mobility, proper technique, how to tighten things up. But I mean, that's just what I learned, and that's why I enjoyed it. And I just brought teachings from what I learned onto her, and been doing all right.
Yeah.
So it looks like most of your guys' workouts are at home. Do you guys train at the gym very much at the time?
Well, before COVID, we trained at Stearns and Griner Gym in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of transformed our garage into a gym. We started off pre-COVID, just with a squat rack and some dumbbells. And then I'm like, okay, well, I still have to train, especially if I'm going to retain the title. So we made a purchase, 3 purchases. So we got a leg extension, hamstring curl, a leg press, and an actual like tower.
Okay. So you went ahead and got all the necessities, including the hard to hit muscles with free weights.
Yeah.
I see what you did.
And like we got strongman equipment. So I have a log, a stone, a circus dumbbell. So depending on which avenue we were going to take, we were going to be prepared.
Yeah.
Most of your posts, it seems like it's pretty much all heavy lifts, which are some insane amounts of weights that you move. Just looking at these, like, wow. And then it's like you have like a flex post and then a lifting post and then a flex post and lifting post. So you're for keeping it around. Yeah. Whenever, I don't know, have you guys been to a gym very much at all recently, or is it pretty much just all home workouts?
Well, I work at a gym, so I go there. I go to the gym every day. I don't know. I'm still not. I don't know. I don't feel like the need to drive to the gym and spend extra time there when I can literally just knock it out at home in between my clients. I'm looking more for convenience because I've like picked up a new hobby, so I'm trying to just like squeeze in lifting, even though I know I should prioritize it. But it's different, especially when I'm not competing, you know. But definitely trying to make sure I maintain and build during off season, so it's not the same thing that's on stage every time.
Yeah. Do you have any? Do either of you have any shows in the near future, or are you guys taking some time off and just saying now's not really the best time to get ready for a show?
Right now, it's well, I mean, COVID, as terrible of the pandemic it's been, in the light of being a competitor, we're taking advantage of it to just de-stress, give everybody time to have a break, understand what fun is again outside of always competing or getting ready for a competition.
I spent like an actual birthday this year, you guys. Yeah. That never happened.
It's been like 4 years since she had a real birthday that didn't have to make weight for anything or didn't have to cover a competition, whether it's bodybuilding or strongman, and it was nice to throw that for her and everything like that.
Well, sounds like you too. It's been a year.
Oh yeah, my birthday last year, we just had a big pile of sweet potatoes and I put a candle on it. That's my cake.
There you go.
Aren't you promoting sorry, Jermaine, aren't you promoting a show in like November? I thought you had something to do with the Nationals.
No, so the show that we're promoting is SoCal Uproar. It's on August 7th, 2021.
Gotcha.
If you think about competing in San Diego, I actually highly recommend it. It's probably one of the more talked about shows. Because it is coming
San Diego. You don't need to convince me of that.
Well, and if you talk to anybody about it, it's pretty cool because as athletes hosting a show, we kind of know what we were looking for, right? I was making sure that it was running well. They had a good amount of backspace. Like you've done a show for IMBF. The backstage is depending on where it is. We don't host ours at a high school. I refuse to host it at a high school. I want you guys to showcase it at a performing arts center. So then you feel like, you worked hard. You can invite friends to an actual stadium looking area.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of vibe. It makes you feel a little bit more like, important.
Yeah, when we were taking on the role of being promoters, it was the whole concept and mindset was a show for athletes by athletes, and we considered everything from all of our experience of being backstage. Like we want room, right? We want to feel comfortable. We don't want to feel like we're suffocating right next to another competitor. Some people have the mindset like I'm trying to take that guy out, but we're so close. Or some people fortunately not IMBF, WMBF, everyone's friendly, and everyone still needs to walk and keep their stuff tidy and there, but everyone can still communicate, have fun, have that environment where they can move, and allow blood flow if you need that in order to get your pump or whatever, and stay warm best you can. But yeah, with mirrors and we had food back there. We're trying to take care of everyone best we can.
I mean, when there's a show, there isn't actual food for your guests, right? It's usually like a long drive away because there's no food. No, we had vendors come to the show so that your guests didn't have to leave and they can just walk outside, grab food, and go back in the auditorium.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was set, definitely. So hopefully 2021 will happen how it's supposed to.
Yeah. How long have you guys been promoters? Is this something that you guys just started getting into, or?
Yeah, it would have been our second year.
Oh, okay. So your second year.
Oh, but yeah. So going back to your question about competing, I believe I won't be competing until 2022, so I'm taking a very good, long, extended time off to really grow into my frame. And we're working on weak points for her, where she obviously plans on retaining her title next year if it's just going to happen. So, depending on how this pandemic goes.
Yeah.
But I might do War on the Shore, which is a strongman comp. It's going to qualify me for nationals and hopefully get an Arnold invite. So it really depends on, again, how things go. But yeah.
Wow. So both of you focusing more on, both of you are very much focusing on strength right now and building either muscle or strength.
I would say strength within the hypertrophy realm, just getting stronger through our reps. For example, just getting back to pushing dumbbells. I'm trying to push 100s for 20 instead of my current 12 right now. You know, like if I can increase my reps, I'm slowly but surely undergoing progressive overload, making sure that I'm identifying what's going on in the mirror at a very comfortable body fat set point where I feel good, I feel healthy. I'm not someone who naturally has abs, so I'm comfortable with just being where I'm at. Not that I'm blown out of proportion, you know, but I'm a naturally heavier guy, so yeah, I just like making sure the tummy's a little flat, you know, with a little cushion ain't hurting.
Are you an endomorph?
You could say that, yeah. When it comes to some mob types, yeah, that's what I've been labeled. At 5'6", it's not pretty, but you know, I gotta
yeah. Right on. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of guys struggle with, and probably women too. But
what we see on social media are like the guys who like are naturally lean, right? The ectomorphs, the mesomorphs. Like we see that all day on social media. But like, what about us? We're here too. We're strong.
Is it always in the back of your mind as you're building muscle to say, okay, I'm 2 pounds heavier than I was at the start of last month. Now, how do I make sure that that's muscle and not fat? Like, is it easy to take yourself out and go, oh, the scale's going up, great, let's keep pounding the dextrose after the workouts?
Right? If only it was like that back in the day, right?
Yeah.
The dream of working and everything like that. Like whatever that weight scale says, it's going up, that's all muscle, right? Again, I always go back to the mirror. One of my buddies, Scott Markey, he was like my mentor. He was like on a gang of freaking magazines back in the day. He's the one that got me into squatting. He was always like, just use the mirror as your reference. Old school, but it's simple, it's effective, it lets you know, let your clothes tell you where your measurements are at. If it gets uncomfortable, fix it, you know? And he was already implying things and making me employ things like mini cuts before mini cut was a term, right? Or like muscle cycles before like the major terms taken from like powerlifting or programming in general from wherever sport. We were already implementing things like that before we even had like the proper terms. He's like, no, this is just your heavy phase. This is your light phase. This is the phase where you do this and that with like drop sets and blah, 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 right? Which we call like
awesome
metabolite.
I like where this is headed, because this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, Jermaine, is that you seem to specifically teach not to obsess. I'm assuming that both of you teach this, but I noticed this, that you don't seem to obsess over specific body fat percentages or maybe even testing body fat, but rather to use the mirror, as you've been saying right now, as a maker of progress. So how is this possible when, especially as naturals, when the changes that you see are so gradual?
Well, so for me, I don't really focus so much on my body fat percentage, just because I hold muscle and fat differently opposed to a different person, right? So when I went into Worlds, I was maybe 10%, 9%?
Never about 10.
I think I was like 10% body fat, and 10% body fat looks different on somebody else. With me, when I looked at myself at Worlds, I felt like I could still lose a good amount of body fat. But again, it's because I have a little bit more fat in my legs compared to somebody else, right? So I don't really like to focus too much on it. I just go based off like how we're feeling. I go based off Jermaine. He's really more of like my guide, right? So I just send my check-ins, let him know how it is, this, and then I'll do body fat percentages just so he can adjust my macros or like adjust my training. But for the most part, we don't really go off like scale, because it kind of like fucks me mentally.
Yeah, and that's what my coach and I were finding too. Alfred Raouf he was saying we would test my body fat, and it was never accurate. It was saying that in the off season, when I was at my heaviest, that I was at 3%, and this is the in body, like the $1 million thing that has hold the handles and everything, and it like prints out and spits out your.
Those machines are usually off by like a 5% margin. Yeah. I mean, the best that we usually accommodated by are the
hydrostatic dunk.
Yeah, hydrostatic dunk, where you blow out all the air, you're on a cage, you're floating down.
Water.
Yeah, and it's in our experience, it's the closest to accuracy that we can get. Mm-hmm. It's still off by like 3 to 4%. Okay, not that much. Maybe like Sean would be so mad.
Yeah, it's like off by a little bit, but not really.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the best way if we ever go off, like just out of curiosity, like that's what we'll do, like once every like 3 to 6 months, depending on our phase. But yeah, it's usually just for videos.
Yeah, I think the best explanation I heard was from another coach that said that literally the only way to know exactly what your body fat percentage is would be to take your body, chop it up, and put all the fat in one pile and put all the muscle in one pile, but it's probably not the healthiest option.
Because a lot of times when we get into fitness, right, we don't realize like our body will look better when it's heavier, but obviously adding that quality weight, changing the ratio of your fat cells and muscle cells, right? And that just means you're adding more weight, right way. But yeah, we try to simplify that when we explain that to our clients too, because all the science thrown in there and terminology will deter them like, it's a little too much over my head.
Yeah.
That's no. We educate, you know.
Do you ever find it, Jermaine, difficult to, or either of you, to stay motivated in the off season if you don't have a competition anytime in the near future? Because that's the biggest thing that has been hard for me lately, is going, I literally don't know when my next show is going to be. And then, so slow when you're bulking.
Yeah. Honestly, and it's a give and take with the obsession of being a bodybuilder, right? It's kind of part of the game. It's a byproduct, you know, we're constantly trying to improve. But the way that I've geared things for like Edna and my other clients is I have them think about other things. You know, the body responds best when it's not so stressed out, and we stress it out with the most minuscule of thoughts to the overbearing thoughts of like, oh shoot, I need to track this. You know, just pulling out your phone, looking at something that can easily start something that your body just recognizes as stress. It doesn't know what it's doing. It doesn't know what you're doing to it. But
yeah,
you know, like introducing a new hobby or like skating. You know, we're getting into like quad skating, trying to dance with that and everything. Or getting into boxing. You know, like changing gears a little bit. That's not too far off the beaten path, but something that's going to help remind us and help us reflect later down the road with that aha moment. Like, man, I really miss bodybuilding, or man, like I'm really fired up to get into training because I'm not burnt out. Right? And that's happening. You know, being motivated in the off season, it happens. And, you know, like everyone becomes unmotivated. I don't care who they are. You know, not everyone's fire driven 24/7. You're a human, right? Unless you're some type of anomaly. But for the most part, everyone loses motivation. Everyone has inspiration. Otherwise, you wouldn't keep trying to go, right? Motivation doesn't let us go with inspiration. For the most part, it's just doing what you gotta do. You know what you gotta do, and you just have fun with it. Like in our off season, we're having fun with our training. I guess you can call it some daily undulating periodization, because we plan on changing a movement here and there, just because like that sounds more fun, and that's gonna make us educate better, and help us stick to it. So it's like making our training fun is what's gonna beat any type of motivation. Just having fun.
Yeah. So to summarize, would you both agree that it's important to resist the temptation to compete too often, so that you're not putting yourself under that kind of chronic stress? Edna, it looked like you took 2 years off before winning your world title in 2019. So
well, so technically I just took 2 years off from bodybuilding, right? I still got that competitive like feed that I need from strongman. So
yeah, because you and I are really like that, and a lot of bodybuilders I've noticed will do that. Is that that's when it's time to do the strong lifts. I'm just not competitive with lifting like at all, so I'm like, it's not even worth trying. I'm definitely a bodybuilder. So you found that counterbalancing and going back and forth has helped to feed that competitive edge that you have.
Yeah, so strongman, because I do a lightweight class, I have to stay within 140, which is still about maybe like 10 pounds over my stage weight. It'll keep me from going over by a lot. I think the most I've ever been at off season was maybe like 150, 155.
Yeah.
And it was not like a healthy thing, you know. And
2015.
Yeah, that was, I don't know what I was doing there. But
I had no say in that one. She was like, I'm just trying to get you. Joe's like, man, all right.
Yeah, but when I took my 2 years off from bodybuilding, I was over it. Like it was no longer fun to where I wanted to go work out. It's funny because people say that they lose motivation when they're off season, right? I kind of lose motivation when I'm on season. I'll like be all about it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why am I doing this?
My brother and I were both like that all the way up until like when you and I met at that show too. Like we were both like we started bodybuilding because we were passionate about doing it, and then we loved working out. But those last 2 months up until the show, it's like the last place on earth to use the gym.
You don't want to do nothing.
I was like, the last week of Worlds, actually, I binged. I had like, I don't know what it was. I was just over it, because I had to take time off from work. I had to make sure our flights were booked, like extra things that I didn't want to stress about. And then my dad got in a car accident, so it was just like I was over
a lot of
it.
Stress.
Yeah, and so Jermaine was like, "Look, after Worlds, you can have whatever you want." And so I was like, "All right, fine." But it was
do whatever you want.
I think that was like the only moment where it was like he was over my bullshit. Oh my God, he's serious right now. And so I think that's what like allowed me to, pull it back in for like that last week. But that last week at Worlds was definitely, or for Worlds was definitely like the toughest one so far.
Wow. You'd say that was your best physique that you've ever brought?
Yeah, I would say so. I definitely can see where I can improve, but that was pretty close to what I wanted.
Which was more of a gratifying feeling, the award that you received or the fact that that was your best physique that you've ever brought to the stage?
I would say, well, for me, I would say the award. It's just because it wasn't just for
Let's
me.
get real.
It was like a cherry on top for all his like hard work. You know what I mean? Like, and all the people that I was able to train with that like kind of went there with us. So for Worlds, we had people like fly in with us, and they didn't compete. So it was a victory for all of us, opposed to just me, So it was kind of cool that we brought that home when it was just the 5 of us that went there, made it happen, and took it back to San Diego.
Yeah, it's such a team. It's such a team sport, really. People don't realize it.
You feed off a lot of people, and people don't realize that. It is a sport where you feel like a lone wolf a lot in the gym when it's just you busting your ass with the weights. But when you have a good group with you, or you have a good support system that follows you, or just supports you, they check up on you, that helps. That little bit of change right there adds up to that dollar, and it helps. It's everything. Like they helped her out so much whenever she needed it. Help just goes full circle.
Well, Absolutely. Hopefully this year or 2021, I'll actually stick to whatever I'm supposed to do, so I can have like a better physique. I tell Jermaine this all the time. I'm probably his worst client, but I'm also like his best client because I think like maybe follow the plan like 80%. Yeah.
Guys,
and
she literally will follow. She has not followed more than 85% of what I say, mainly because I am the husband. And back then, the boyfriend, she's like, I barely should listen to you. I was like, all right, I get it. All right.
So when you guys go out to a restaurant, do you guys like have arguments in front of the waitress and stuff? Like, hey, that's not on your meal plan.
No, that's more. It's more of me like making things complicated for them, and like since I ordered for her, I think about her food first. So like I order for her, and then like I'm the one being complicated because like I'm not necessarily dieting as hard as she is or in competition. But when we are, it's kind of the same. But I'm the one like, let me get that, add that. I'll get some more of that, and I'm like making a whole different.
Does this have this in it? Can I see the ingredients for this?
Exactly.
What's the macros on that?
Are you sure it's oil-free, Ray? It probably isn't. You probably got oil from the other order on there, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So Edna, we were just talking about what your off season looks like and the focus on strength. Most women that are new, from what I understand, that are new to the industry and new to weightlifting, bodybuilding, the idea of women lifting weights, are concerned with getting bulky, getting manly, which is obviously not the case with you, because you have like the classic physique of women, but like it's still feminine. So it's very, very balanced and very proportional, but not massive like what people would think would happen when you lift heavy weight.
Like, it's definitely my genetics. Like, first off, it's definitely my genetics. I always have a small waist. Like, even when I'm bigger, my waist is just smaller. But then also, you know, we're not on drugs. So the cap of my body is the cap of my body. I will have, you know, more definition, but it's never going to exceed to where kids would ever reach, you know, because we're natural. It's never going to look a certain way unless I'm enhanced.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, but for sure, my genetics plays a huge role in what I look like, you know. The small waist makes a big difference in my physique. If my waist was a lot bigger, it would just be like completely thrown off.
Yeah, no, like your lat spread, like I would put your lat spread up against male bodybuilders and be like, wow, that proportions with the.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it.
She'll like pull up somebody backstage, like, yo, let's lat spread real quick. I'm like,
yeah. So one of the critiques that you had for me was to develop the lower lats, and you were trying to explain to me all these different ways of hitting lower lats, and you suggested a wide grip supinated pull down or a chin up for the lower lats, which was like the weirdest thing for me. I never thought that I'd hit my lower lats. So over the past year, I've been experimenting with like every different pull down that I could think of to hit it, and I finally found yesterday the best exercise for me, because everybody's lats tie in differently to hit it, and it's that I think it's a hammer strength or maybe a life fitness machine, where it's there's a lever, so you pull it down. You're supposed to do it like this. You're supposed to
plate loaded
up to your chest. No, it's not loaded, it's a stack, but it moves in like an arc like this, and so you bring it down like that. So, but it's a machine, not the actual pull down. So I flip backwards on it, and it has like a Y shape to it, and didn't the handles, but grabbed like the part that moves up and down. And then when you do that, you're able to do like not really behind the back or like a behind the neck pull down, but like straight down like this, to where you really can't do with a bar. And the hand angle, because the key to a physique is all in the wrist, right? So the hand angle was kind of like neutral, but between neutral and supinated. And yeah, that was just nailing the lower lats. And I was like, oh, I gotta get this on video. I talked about on the podcast. Edna's gonna be proud of me.
Yeah, for sure.
Next time on stage, she's gonna say, hey, your lower lats are looking better. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, definitely just like playing around with different machines, grips. Like, I do this very weird movement for my rear delts. It's the funkiest thing. So it's
please tell me.
It's on a seated row, right? So obviously for the seated row, you're gonna grip it and you'll pull all the way back. So I use a straight bar, and I'll get the widest grip, and I'll just pull back slightly to where it activates my rear delts, and I'll bring it all the way back. So it's a very small movement.
Huh?
Yeah, it's just like a very small movement, literally just like pull back, feel my rear delts, extend all the way back.
Wow.
So it's stupid, but
it's one of those things where you have to understand the mechanics of what your unique development is, what your unique structure is. And of course we all have like, you know, the standard like ways to do things, but obviously we have to branch out, especially as bodybuilders, to just, even if it's awkward, if it hits that muscle and it's comfortable for you, do it. You know,
Yeah.
Like I have many athletes doing rows totally different than each other.
100%. And I would add that when you get to the back, I think in particular, I don't know, you could make a similar argument for legs, but you get into certain body parts, and it's like, depending on how God made you, like your muscles are literally tied to different places of your bones. And so like what works for one person may not work for somebody else. Jermaine, you choreograph posing routines for your clients. Do you recommend dance or ballet to supplement posing routines like
Absolutely.
used to do? Because they used to take ballet classes.
If you're willing to take some ballet, you know, even one thing for sure I recommend almost every bodybuilder, if not all bodybuilders, is yoga. You're gonna learn how to hold a static pose, right? And it helps doing that. And while you're thinking about your routine, thinking about your poses, go with the flow. You know, it literally is one of those things. Like, it sounds woo-woo, but in the bodybuilding world, it is true. Like, you visualize how you want to shape your physique, and it will trail that way, right? And we've seen that time and time again. Just the way we train, the way we're chasing it. You know, we wouldn't have that vision without having without being able to build our body with that vision, right? But yeah, absolutely. Take some dance classes. That's going to help you just feel relaxed. Get used to that performance side of what being a bodybuilder is. We're entertainers. You know, big reason why we go to Performing Arts Center, right? I love to pose. I love to teach people how to pose. I love how to look at somebody's body and be like, man, that pose looks awesome on them. Like, I want to see them. Like, hey, can you do this real quick? They're like, why? Like, trust me, I think you look awesome, right? Like, I'm kind of that weirdo, but like, you know, I admire bodybuilding so much in that way, like just the performance way of how to present your physique. Because at the end of the day, if you can't present a physique, you're just a meathead, right?
Right.
It's separate.
That's a great point. Yeah, Taylor's looking at ballet classes for me right now. I'm gonna get.
There you go.
Probably have to do them over Zoom right now too. So, all right, Zoom ballet classes. We're good on that.
At least it's at home.
Yeah. It's not for a tutu.
And she had me a purple one, dude. You'll be all right.
And that's a good point that you make too about stage presence. In a lot of ways translates to other types of stage presence too. You can tell somebody that is just like nervous because, you know, they're just not used to being in front of people, let alone naked, right? And so I do stand-up comedy, for example. And so like when I do a set of stand-up, like all the times that I've stepped on stage as a bodybuilder makes it so that like even if I have a bad set, you know, I leave and I'm kind of like, well, my lower lats are looking better. Yeah. Fall back on that.
Yes, I saw that in the questions. I was like, yeah, definitely. Like Arnold and Franco, yeah, definitely go up there. You gotta work it, man. You gotta work it.
Yeah. So Edna, one of the things that was that I think that you helped my brother and I both about, but he was more physique and I was doing bodybuilding and men's physique, was specifically the importance of developing the outer head of the quads for the V taper and for the X frame. You're known for having that classic physique, the narrow waist shape, and a lot of it is, I would assume that you would attribute to the shape of your legs. I was wondering if you had any go-to exercises, any favorites for developing your quads in that way, for that sweep, for that bowed.
Yeah. So for my quad sweep, I want to say like I have two movements. It would be the leg press. So I play with the angle of my feet, right? So sometimes I'll have them super out. So then I'm pretty much like doing a sumo on the leg press, right? So my toes are slightly pointed out. I'll go all the way down, all the way back up, and flex my sweep at the very end just to make sure I'm actually activating it. And then I'll bring it in just a little bit more, targeting on my quads. So that would be my two movements for my leg press. And then I do single leg on the leg extensions. And my foot would be slightly turned out because I'm pigeon-toed. So it's slightly pointed out, so that way I can actually feel my sweep. But it took me actually a few years to get, that connection. If you don't use it as much as you actually use it, you're never going to find it, and it's never going to grow. So like playing with your foot placement, playing with machines, it'll make your physique different all the time.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it was when I was first trying to do leg presses the way that you explained to me, I was having a difficult time with it. But there's two cues that I made that made a lot of difference, and where I was actually able to get them sore the next day, which of course soreness isn't like the best indication of a good workout, but it does tell you effectively hit a muscle. And it was thinking of it like a leg extension. because I have long femurs, so hitting quads is always a bit of a challenge, in being able to activate them. But I'm thinking of kicking out and kicking forward like a leg extension. So I like to do leg extensions beforehand too, so I can think about that, and then that was helpful. And then also actually doing higher reps and not having my heels on the platform. For some reason, when I take my heels up, it's like it's almost like another calf workout, but having just my toes, which is, I mean, according to most people, terrible form, but having just your toes on the leg press, having it lower, for me, these last couple of weeks have just been a game changer.
Yeah, like if you have the mobility, for example, like we used to see Tom Platz do his sissy squats, right? You know, like everyone's like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. That's bad for your toes. That's bad for your ankles. Bad for your knees. But it's stimulation, you know, and you know, to achieve stimulation, especially as like whether you're a beginner or even intermediate or even professional, some people don't have that stimulation because they don't use that muscle enough. But certain movements, you know, if you feel it, keep going at it. It feels good. You know, sometimes we take an approach where it's like, I'm not going to count, like, because I feel it on this day, I'm going to hit the heck out of it, right? Because I'm not used to this. I want to feel this. I want to recognize this. I want my body to acknowledge this. So yeah, just go in with it, right? But yeah, things like that, like having your toes up, like turning into a flat squat leg press variation, that's perfectly fine. You know, as long as it's not hurting you, it's good. If you have the mobility for it, it's good. As far as I see, it's kind of healthy for your metatarsals. You know?
Solid advice. Earlier, we were on the subject of stress and how that has a lot to do with your physique, even more than just like the numbers and what's on paper. Because on paper you could be growing and having progressive overload. You can be, and you could be dieting and consuming the amount of food that you need to. But there's, as we know, a whole lot that's not really tangible enough to put it in paper to. And one of those things is hormones. So are there any go-tos, any specific practices that either of you have when it comes to a competition season and minimizing that stress as much as you can, like meditation, prayer, anything like that?
For us, I believe it just goes back to like our hobbies that we actually enjoy that aren't fitness related. You know, a lot of times, you know, you hear these other coaches, especially like in this day and age, people are talking about balance, flexibility, not just with nutrition, not just with training, but obviously that's our life. Life should be like that without even thinking about it or labeling it as such, right? It's like, what am I going to do outside the gym other than like grab my food and eat, right? Shoot, like if we live in San Diego, we're going to go ride a skateboard, you know, or hit the beach or do something like that. You know, other people who live like in a colder region, they're going to go snowboard or something, right? You know, doing something outside of fitness, but that's still fun for you. I mean, regardless, it's activity without thinking about it. And that's the best way to like not think about stress, because the more you think about stress, you're going to stress. And if we can just eliminate thoughts of anything like that, you're going to get further. Because when it's time to turn that switch on, hit the gym, you're there, you're in it, right? That's something that we promote big time with the people we train. And especially with ourselves, we have to remind ourselves the same thing, because we're still going through it too, whether we're coaches or not. We still go through that hardship. We're not going to lie about it.
When I'm super stressed, I like to take like just time off. So usually around competition time, we'll actually go camping. Like before Worlds, I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel like my body was reacting how it should have been. So we went camping, no phones, nothing, like no talk of fitness. So it was pretty fun to just reset and, you know, live off the very basic things that you brought in your car.
Basically simplifying a lot of life.
Yeah, and I love where this ended up too, because the premise of our podcast and our goal and our message that we really want to get out is to live a holistic lifestyle, and so that's not overly focused and overly obsessive on one area, but to take into consideration spiritual life, your mental health, your physical health, and everything all together. And so the fact that you're explaining right now is to not go so all in and 100% into full on grind mode into your physical goals, everything else, because really it all comes back around and it's counterproductive anyway. So.
Well, like the thing with us is we do at least something daily that we enjoy, right? So daily with him, he'll play video games or he'll watch his shows. And that's because he wants to, opposed to he has to. And then for me, I would like to go on walks. Yeah, it's just whatever. I already know what San Diego looks like, but I want to walk around like whatever area it is, either Seaport, Balboa Park. And that's how I relax, even though I know I wake up at 3 o'clock every freaking morning. I'm like, okay, we got to make time to do this because that's what I want to do.
Yeah, wow. And you guys have explained this perfectly, because Taylor and I are both thinking the exact same thing right now. I don't know if you ever thought of it this way, but what you just described is a superset taken out of the gym and applying it into your life. So
yeah, absolutely.
You enjoy that walk, and you enjoy. Did you say video games? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, previously a gamer, so yeah, before I got into coaching, I was a gamer.
So you enjoy your play time, and you enjoy the time that you take a step back more because you know that you gave the gym everything that you had. And
yeah,
enjoy the gym more. You enjoy the gym more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you enjoy the gym more because you took that time off and you weren't there for 24 hours. You were there for the time that you needed to train, and then you're done. And you come back when you're recharged and ready to go again. So it's just like when you do a bench press. Now you can pull more, and then when you pull between sets, you go back to your bench, and now you're stronger at that. So
exactly. Yeah. Like I didn't bench press for 3 months this whole time, right? Yeah, even after Berto's program, I was like, I'm not gonna bench for a little bit. Came back, hit 315 for out of nowhere. I was like, I haven't hit that since 2015. Like, what was that? It's never been a goal. It felt good coming up, right? So it's like, yeah, when you just dial it back a little bit, one step back, 2 steps forward. It happens all the time. You got not the time, or just forget about it and just make things happen.
Yeah. Great.
I'm happy that you guys represent the holistic lifestyle of what fitness should be, because when I became a trainer, my school was a holistic health school. And so that's where a lot of my coaching was embedded in me. And me being a trainer, it was different from what I was starting to get into the industry. I was like, not all trainers do this stuff that I was doing. We got into biomechanics, we got into more than just kinesiology. But it was the aspect of just being healthy in life. And not trying to be a life coach, we kind of despise them. We're like, you can't coach someone's life, you just help them. Yeah.
That's what I love about the INBF, the WNBF too, is you get that feeling behind it. You get that feeling back to the show and everything. And people are there because it's a sport around being healthy. And
absolutely.
Yeah, the last month, 2 months before a show, you could make a very that it's not healthy, but it's an extreme sport, and at the end of the day, it's like, man, we've spent a lot of money on competitions, and we've put a lot into competitions, but then we're like, okay, everything that we know about nutrition would not happen if I didn't start bodybuilding. And you take something, and you talk about. Yeah, personal training and our whole business, supersetyourlife.com, the products, our whole livelihood is really come out of that. And if it hasn't come out of it directly, it has indirectly, because the gym is just a very tangible way to do something and get a result, do something and see yourself better in a way that's actually measurable. And you can't really do that with your marriage. And it's hard to do that with your relationship with God. It's like, how many Bible verses do I have memorized? But to go into the gym and to see I'm bigger, or okay, I can see my abs. I've never seen them before, and to take something tangible like that, it does something to you mentally. And it's just like Arnold said, everything is sets and reps. You take that and apply it to everything else. So have you guys found that to be true in your life with how it's helped you?
Absolutely. When I was becoming a trainer, becoming a coach, from my mentors, whether from my holistic health school or from like my mentors as bodybuilders, we come into the gym and we go to the gym to be better at life. Training in the gym to be better at life, right? The reason why I love squatting so much, the metaphorical term of you go to hell and back, you can make it through anything, right? And like time and time again, I've challenged a lot of my clients, especially if I think they're ready. I will put them through an excruciating, painful set where I take out any of the racking heights and I just remove them. I'm like, you squat till you drop. How hard are you going to go to hell to enjoy heaven, right? Usually we talk like that, right? Depending on the scenario. But are you willing to walk through the mud to get to what you're trying to do, right? The grass is greener on the other side, but you got to go through some mud to get to it.
Thank you, podcast listeners, for joining us on this episode. If you found this helpful or entertaining, we just ask you would please share this podcast and help spread the word. To make sure you don't miss future weekly episodes, you can subscribe to the podcast, and it would mean the world to Colt and I if you leave a rating or a review on iTunes or whatever platform you're listening on. We will not be setting up on Patreon or any other service for donation. This content is our gift to you. If you'd like to support the show, we do invite you to our website, supersetyourlife.com, where you will find our retail pages for our very own Skullbells workout equipment line, hats, t-shirts, coaching services, and Colt's stand-up comedy booking information. On the website, you will also find the link to subscribe to our weekly newsletter to be informed of new product announcements, sales, and all information to be up to date for what's going on. Finally, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at supersetyourlife.com. Thanks again, and God bless.